Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Okay, so we're taking a deep dive into this case file.
Yeah.
Notes, transcripts, even forensic reports.
Wow.
All about a murder in Elmsworth.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small town nestled in the Appalachian foothills.
Okay.
You know, the kind of place with idyllic landscapes and family businesses.
Yeah.
The annual Harvest Festival is the biggest event of the year.
Right.
But this time, things took a dark turn.
Yeah, it's like it's that classic true crime setup. You have this peaceful facade and then this brutal act of violence.
Exactly.
Really grabs your attention.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if any place is truly as innocent as it seems.
Right.
And at the center of it all is Evelyn Reyes,
Okay.
a local artist found dead within her own installation, Elysium's Vale.
Mm.
And it wasn't just found dead.
Right.
Her body was deliberately arranged,
Oh, wow.
almost like another piece of art.
That staging is really significant.
Right.
It tells us this wasn't random.
Yeah.
The killer wanted to send a message. It speaks to a very personal connection between the victim and the perpetrator,
Yeah.
either positive or negative.
Yeah. And it gets even more complicated when you consider the cause of death.
Right.
Strangulation, no signs of a struggle,
Okay.
meaning Evelyn likely knew her attacker
Yeah.
or was caught totally off guard.
Adds another layer to the puzzle.
Yeah.
Was this a crime of passion or carefully planned?
Right.
The level of premeditation will be key to understanding the motive.
Absolutely. So to get to the bottom of this,
Yeah.
we need to understand Evelyn and her world.
Yes.
And in the material you've provided, there's a lot of background on Elmsworth
Uh-huh.
and a list of potential suspects, each with their own connection to Evelyn.
Right. And it's important to remember at this stage, everyone is a possibility. We
Right.
have to look at each person objectively.
Okay.
Examine their relationships with Evelyn, their potential motives,
Yes.
any inconsistencies in their stories.
Okay, let's start with Jude Baker.
Okay.
He's described as a reclusive botanist,
Uh-huh.
a bit of an outsider, even in a small town like Elmsworth.
Yeah.
He was a childhood friend of Evelyn's,
Okay.
and some folks whispered about him having feelings for her
Right.
that weren't reciprocated.
Unrequited love, yeah. That's a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
If he felt rejected or betrayed by Evelyn,
Right.
could have festered into resentment,
Yeah.
and maybe even rage.
Right.
But we need more than just speculation.
Right.
We need concrete evidence.
Okay.
Something to tie him to the crime.
And then there's Marissa Hargrove.
Okay.
This one's a little closer to home because she's the sheriff's granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
And she was also an aspiring artist working with Evelyn.
Interesting.
Kind of like an apprentice.
A mentor-mentee relationship,
Yeah.
it can be complicated.
Yeah.
There's admiration, but also competition.
Right.
Was Marissa inspired by Evelyn or threatened by her success?
Right.
Was there a sense of rivalry there?
Okay, next up is Benjamin Marsh. He was the art dealer who financed Evelyn's work.
Uh-huh.
A sleuth talker.
Right.
Charming, but with a reputation for being ruthless in business.
Money and art, that can be a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
Did Benjamin see Evelyn's growing independence as a threat to his control
Right.
over her career, over her profits?
Yeah.
Financial disputes can turn deadly.
And finally, we have Alice Stowe,
Okay.
another artist in town,
Yeah.
who used to be close friends with Evelyn.
Okay.
But things had soured between them in recent years, allegedly because of professional jealousy.
This is a common theme in artistic circles.
Right.
Jealousy, envy, the desire for recognition.
Right.
If Alice felt Evelyn was eclipsing her, stealing the spotlight,
Yeah.
it could have pushed her to the edge.
So we've got our potential suspects.
Yeah.
But to go beyond speculation, we need to dive into the evidence.
Right.
And luckily, you've provided a treasure trove of forensic reports
Oh, this is great.
for us to unpack.
Forensics will give us the objective facts.
Yes.
Physical evidence doesn't lie,
Right.
though it can be misinterpreted.
Of course.
It's our job to separate the meaningful clues from the red herrings.
Exactly.
Let's see what we've got.
For example, there were red silk fibers found on Evelyn's dress.
Interesting.
Turns out they were a very specific type of silk, only sold at one boutique in town.
Okay, so that's significant.
Right.
It narrows down the pool of suspects.
Yes.
It tells us something about the killer.
Right.
They were either careless or wanted to leave a clue.
But even more compelling was the DNA analysis.
Okay.
of samples found under Evelyn's fingernails.
Oh, wow.
They got a hit, and it wasn't who you might expect.
This is where the case takes a dramatic turn.
It does.
The DNA matched Marissa Hargrove,
Wow.
the sheriff's own granddaughter.
So now, not only do we have a potential motive for Marissa,
Right.
but we also have physical evidence placing her at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
This paints a very different picture than the initial assumption
Yeah.
that Evelyn's killer was a jealous rival or a spurned lover.
It does. This is why forensic evidence is so crucial.
Yes.
It can corroborate or completely contradict eyewitness accounts,
Right.
alibis, even our own assumptions.
Right.
We need to follow the evidence wherever it leads.
Which brings us to the interviews.
Okay.
Sheriff Hargrove, along with a local journalist named Clara,
Right.
conducted a series of interviews with each suspect. And let me tell you, these transcripts are riveting.
I bet. Interviews are where we get to see behind the facade.
Yes.
How do the suspects react under pressure?
Right.
Are their stories consistent?
Yeah.
Do they reveal any hidden motives?
Exactly.
Anxieties?
Yeah.
Let's see what they have to say. Let's start with Jude. His alibi was that he was working alone in his greenhouse the night of the murder.
And you can practically feel Sheriff Hargrove's skepticism in the transcript.
Oh, yeah.
It's an alibi that's nearly impossible to verify.
Right, it's a classic weak alibi. No witnesses, no physical evidence.
Right.
And when the sheriff pressed him on his relationship with Evelyn,
Yeah.
Jude became increasingly agitated.
He kept insisting that he was happy for her success.
Mm-hmm.
But his voice kept getting louder, almost as if he was trying to convince himself.
That's a red flag for investigators.
Yeah.
Overly defensive reactions can mask deeper emotions.
Right.
Could Jude have been harboring resentment towards Evelyn,
It's possible.
despite his claims of friendship?
The sheriff also asked him about a detail mentioned in your source material,
Okay.
a contract that Evelyn had drawn up for them to collaborate on an art exhibition.
That contract is fascinating. On the surface, it seems like a great opportunity for both of them.
Right.
But perhaps Jude saw it differently?
Yeah.
Maybe he felt threatened by the collaboration, worried that he would be overshadowed by Evelyn's talent?
It's definitely possible. And you can see that anxiety play out in his interview.
Yeah.
He keeps saying things like, I wanted to support her, not compete with her.
Yeah.
But his tone is almost bitter.
It's a subtle clue,
Yeah.
but a telling one. Hints at the complex dynamics at play in their relationship,
Right.
the potential for those dynamics to turn toxic.
Okay, next we have Benjamin Marsh.
All right.
He claimed to be at a fancy art gala at Brooks Manor the night of the murder. Even provided a receipt from the restaurant as proof.
A receipt can be a strong piece of evidence,
Right.
but it doesn't tell the whole story. It establishes he was there at some point,
Right.
but doesn't prove he stayed the entire time.
Especially at a large event like that.
Exactly. It wouldn't be difficult to slip away unnoticed for an hour or two.
Right. Right.
And remember, Benjamin has a history of art fraud
Oh, that's right.
that suggests a willingness to deceive,
Yeah.
to manipulate, to get what he wants.
And when the sheriff brings up these allegations that Evelyn was planning to break her contract with him,
Yeah.
Benjamin's arrogance is almost palpable. He practically smirks, like he thinks he's above suspicion.
That arrogance is interesting. Could be a sign of his personality, or it could be a way of masking guilt.
Right.
He keeps deflecting the sheriff's questions,
Yeah.
focusing on how difficult the art world is,
Right.
almost blaming Evelyn for her own ambition.
It's almost like he's trying to paint himself as the victim in all of this.
It's a classic manipulation tactic.
Yeah.
Shift the blame, control the narrative.
Right.
It's something investigators often encounter when dealing with individuals who have a history of deception.
Okay, now let's move on to Alice Stowe. Her story was that she left the festival after the unveiling of Elysium's veil
Okay.
and went home to watch TV. But she admits to having a fight with Evelyn that night,
Okay.
which definitely raises some red flags.
A fight so close to the time of death is always significant.
Yeah.
It establishes a possible motive, especially given the history of tension between them.
Right. When Deputy Lane asked her to describe the fight, Alice became very vague,
Oh, really?
saying things like, I felt overshadowed and maybe I yelled a bit.
Mm.
But she couldn't remember any specifics.
That vagueness is suspicious.
Yeah.
Strong emotions, like those involved in a heated argument, tend to create vivid memories.
It would think.
Her inability to recall details suggests she might be blocking them out intentionally.
Or perhaps she's trying to downplay the severity of the fight, worried that it might make her look guilty.
Exactly. And let's not forget, Alice admits to struggling professionally.
Right.
While Evelyn's career was flourishing.
Right.
That kind of envy and resentment can be a dangerous cocktail.
It's starting to feel like everyone had a motive.
Yeah.
And everyone has something to hide.
That's the nature of a complex investigation. Everyone becomes a suspect until proven otherwise.
Right.
But there's one piece of evidence we haven't discussed yet.
Okay.
The one that truly turns this case on its head.
You're talking about the DNA match from the samples found under Evelyn's fingernails.
Yes. Marissa Hargrove, the sheriff's own granddaughter.
It's the kind of twist you'd expect in a fictional thriller.
Right.
But this is real life.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the investigation takes on this deeply personal dimension for the sheriff.
Right.
He has to reconcile his duty to the law with his love for his family.
And for Marissa, this discovery completely dismantles her carefully constructed facade.
Exactly. She can no longer deny her involvement.
Right.
The evidence is irrefutable.
Yeah.
And in the face of this revelation, she breaks down and confesses.
Wow.
But her confession isn't what anyone expected.
Marissa's confession, it's heartbreaking. She describes going to Evelyn's studio after the festival. Not to confront her, but to seek reassurance.
Okay.
She admired Evelyn, wanted to be just like her,
Yeah.
but also felt inadequate, constantly in her shadow.
This speaks to the pressures young artists often face, especially when they're working with someone they idolize.
Yeah.
There's this desire to please, to live up to expectations,
Right.
but also a fear of failure,
Right.
of being seen as just an imitation.
Marissa confessed that the conversation, it turned into an argument.
Uh-huh.
She accused Evelyn of being dismissive,
Okay.
of not taking her work seriously.
Right.
Things escalated, and in a moment of frustration, Marissa pushed Evelyn.
It wasn't a calculated act of violence,
Right.
but a spur-of-the-moment reaction,
Right.
driven by intense emotion.
Yeah.
This is a key point in the case.
Okay.
It shifts our understanding from premeditated murder to a tragic accident,
Yes.
fueled by this volatile mix of admiration and resentment.
Evelyn fell, hit her head, and lost consciousness. Marissa panicked, fled the scene,
Wow.
told no one.
It's a classic fight-or-flight response.
Right.
In a moment of crisis, rational thought can be overwhelmed by fear.
Yeah.
Marissa made a terrible decision, one that she would regret for the rest of her life.
But here's where the forensics come back into play.
Okay.
Remember those red silk fibers found on Evelyn's dress?
Yes, they ultimately corroborated Marissa's story. Turns out she'd borrowed a dress from a friend.
Oh, wow.
The same friend who owned the only boutique in town that sold that specific silk. It wasn't a deliberate clue,
Right.
just a tragic coincidence.
Wow.
That helped investigators piece together the truth.
So we have a confession, we have physical evidence,
Right.
but what about the DNA under Evelyn's fingernails?
That's where Marissa's confession gets even more complicated. She admits that during the argument, Evelyn scratched her, drawing blood.
Okay.
It wasn't a violent struggle, just a brief moment of physical contact
Right.
that left behind crucial evidence.
It's a chilling reminder of how even the smallest details can have a profound impact.
It is. And it also underscores the importance of that thorough forensic analysis.
Yeah.
Without that DNA evidence, Marissa's story might have been dismissed. Just a desperate attempt to protect someone else.
With the truth revealed, the case takes on this tragic dimension. It's no longer a whodunit,
Right.
but a whydunit.
Why?
Why did this young woman, full of promise, make a series of decisions that led to such a devastating outcome?
It forces us to consider the pressures young artists face, the
Yeah.
complex dynamics of these mentor-mentee relationships, and the dangers of unaddressed emotions,
Right.
envy and insecurity.
The trial was a somber affair. The community was divided.
Yeah.
Some demanding justice for Evelyn,
Of course.
others sympathizing with Marissa and the sheriff,
Right.
who was now facing this unimaginable task,
Yeah.
arresting his own granddaughter.
It's a scenario that tests the very foundation of a small town. Loyalties are strained,
Right.
friendships tested. The community is forced to confront these dark undercurrents
Yeah.
that exist even in the most idyllic settings.
Marissa was ultimately charged with involuntary manslaughter, a tragic outcome, but one that acknowledged the unintentional nature of Evelyn's death.
Right.
She was sentenced to probation and community service, a punishment aimed at rehabilitation rather than retribution.
It's a reminder that justice isn't always about punishment.
Right.
Sometimes it's about acknowledging the complexities of human behavior, the weight of unintended consequences,
Right.
and the possibility of redemption.
The case of Evelyn Reyes is a stark reminder that even the most beautiful creations can conceal darkness, and that ambition, if left unchecked, can lead to tragedy.
It's a story that challenges us to examine our own motivations,
Yeah.
be mindful of the impact our actions have on others,
Right.
and seek understanding, even in the face of profound loss.
We've laid out the facts, the forensic evidence, the emotional complexities, but we leave you with this. How might things have been different if Marissa had sought guidance or confided in someone about her feelings? And could Evelyn, through her art or her mentorship, have somehow helped prevent this tragedy? Something to ponder as you delve deeper into the source material.